Hello, everybody. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump in. I am videoing today for a few who are going to be out today. Field trips, FBLA had to move their field trip to today because of our crazy weather we had a couple weeks ago. So their whole conference had to move to today. So Lisa and Deacon are both there. And I actually just left Barb observing Courtney. So she'll be hopping on in a little bit, but she got her pop one done. So she's kind of scrambling. Let's see, in that takes care. We've got Samantha, we've got Lorraine. Who else are we missing, y'all? Let me think. I think that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Who else are we missing? Let me think. Maggie. Maggie. That's right, Maggie. Okay. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and start video, and I'm going to jump in, and then as they add in. Oh wait, I think Maggie's on a field trip today too. I don't remember. I'd have to look at my email. I don't remember if that's this week or next week. Okay. However, we're videoing, and so even if they come a little bit later, they'll be able to watch this and catch up. I'm going to go ahead and jump in um, with a couple of logistical things that we have going on. I want to review a couple of things, so let me share my screen and make sure I have my sound on for a little bit later when we need that. I hope y'all are having a wonderful week. Um, Kind of funny because you had so many interrupted weeks. It kind of feels weird to have like whole weeks, but next week is a short week too. So let's go ahead and start there. And first of all, can we just take a minute to acknowledge the fact that it's already February? Like for real? It's already February. Um, April 29th. Let me make sure I have this correct. Yeah, no, April 26th, I'm sorry, is your technical last day in the field. I know that many of you are trying to shoot for a little bit earlier than that, like you're saving your absences and things like that because you want to be out a little bit earlier. Um, so something that I kind of want to let you know and just kind of give you a little bit of insight about is now is the time where you, your students, and your mentor may be feeling a little bit of what we call togetherness fatigue. Even if the relationships are wonderful, everything's perfect and ideal, you are still sharing a physical space with another person for a huge chunk of your waking hours. Do you understand that? Like, you are probably spending more time with this mentor teacher than you may be spending even with members of your family that live in the same home as you. So it is perfectly normal to start feeling what we call a little bit of togetherness fatigue, just being together. Having said that, there's a couple of takeaways. Number one, it is already February 5th. We're going to take a moment to look at the calendar really quickly. But with your last date being April 26th, and you have off a week and a day for spring break, you also have off 3 days coming up here for Mardi Gras. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a March in service somewhere in there as well that gives you a long holiday. Believe it or not, those little breaks from one another, they really do help, just with the togetherness fatigue. But you don't have that much time left in that space. There are some things that you just need to go, okay, I'm going to push through this, and I need to just say, okay, I'm getting through this. But there are other things that we don't want to get caught in a pattern that's preventing you from growing. Okay. So if there are some situations that have arisen where sometimes we get stuck in patterns from residency one, like maybe you aren't getting to teach as much as you need to, or maybe there are some, you would like a little bit more insight on the planning portion of it, and you're just not quite getting that yet. Either you initiate a conversation with your mentor to kind of help you get that additional experience that you need. I'm happy to Zoom with you and kind of talk out some of that, of what the expectations are, and just to kind of help you know, are you on the right track or not on the right track? Because there are some things that the fatigue is coming from, you aren't getting as much challenge as you need to in residency two. You might be stuck in the pattern of residency one. And sometimes that's the issue. So what I'm trying to say here with all of this is, there are some things that are just, you're in the same room together. Even if it's an ideal situation, that's a lot of togetherness. All right. The second thing is, it might be time to consider, okay, it's February. Should I be taking on a little bit more of the teaching load? Should I be taking on a little bit more of the planning load? Things like that. And that might be an area where the reason that you feel a little bit of fatigue is because you're not growing like you should. Feel free to stick around with me after and we can talk about this, or we can schedule a Zoom at a separate time to go over it and kind of talk it through. So we've already worked out a couple of those things with you guys, and we're working out more. Some of your mentors have never mentored in residency, so they're learning the expectations for residency two as well. They may have had a student teacher, but they've never had like a year-long student teacher. So it's a little bit different as far as the expectations. So I just wanted to kind of set that up first of all. Having said that, next week is your Mardi Gras holiday. Enjoy it. We do not have seminar next Monday. I know some of you are going to enjoy sleeping late, which you deserve. Enjoy it. Some of you might be picking up some extra hours at your jobs. You might be traveling, but seminar will not be one of the responsibilities that you're going to be worrying about next Monday. So we will not be meeting next Monday. Of course, it's on our little no seminar last day schedule, but I'll be sending that out as well later in the week. Having said that, I also want to talk about some things that I'm already seeing and I'm putting on the schedule, and it's helping me determine like walkthroughs and things like that. I know that our state, so this is for if you are teaching in a high school setting, your ACT testing window is March 12th and 13th. So in your own planning, you need to go ahead and plug that in. The school virtually shuts down for those testings. Depending on which location you're at, you may be asked to be like a hall monitor. You may be asked to like guard a parking lot, like parking lot duty as the students are coming and leaving. There are certain things you are not allowed to do, and they know that, they understand that. It's like, if you have a question about something, so for example, if you're asked to do something and you're like, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing that. Like if they ask you to administer the ACT, you cannot do that. And we want to know about that. Please like reach out to me and say, hey, they asked me to do something and I don't know if that's in my purview. Let me know about it. And the reason why is number one, we don't want to put you in a position that you're not capable of doing. But number two, the school can be penalized for that. Like it's a lot of money, it's fines, it's all that kind of stuff. And we don't want to just go along with it like it's okay. So that's number one. Number two, the other testing that I have so far is from Beauregard Parish. I don't have Calcasieu yet. I don't know if any of you have it yet. That's usually a school by school situation. But Beauregard is going to be giving theirs that last week that y'all are in the field, the 22nd through the 26th, which is great because all of our pops are done by then. Our walkthroughs are finished by then. I hope that Calcasieu does it that same week as well, that's the week they make their testing. Do any of you from Calcasieu, do you have anything yet? Maggie, go ahead.
They were talking about it in our PLC last week, Dr. Clovis was. Um, Calcasieu's is the week after that, I think, because I remember being like, oh, I'm not even gonna be in school for.
Awesome. Oh, good. Brooklyn shaking her head that much. Y'all are sulfur. Y'all on the same track. Zane, that would mean y'all probably are too.
Yeah,
Uh,
we have English TEOC is on April 30th. And that's
Great.
kind of like I think that's a Tuesday, and so like day before as well. That's like the first day of EOC testing. I know that May 1st they're giving like a break day, but I mean we'll be gone by April 26th.
Great. That's ideal. That's ideal. Samantha, I'm not positive about middle school, and Lorraine, I'm not positive about middle school. But when y'all hear something, just let me know. Again, we are flexible, at the end with whatever you guys need to do for testing. And it always is it's a little bit different based on the school and circumstances. So we will shift things around as we need to make sure that you guys get what you need. Okay. I just don't want you to hear something in a PLC and go, oh, that's my pop window. What am I going to do? Don't worry. I'll take care of you. We'll make it work. But I'm really glad about the high schools because that's a lot of our people. So that makes it that's something off our plate. So that's great. So keeping the testing in mind and the holidays in mind, there's a resource that's right here. It's been on our seminar the whole time. I'm actually going to update it this week. I have more information about my schedule right now than I did at the beginning of the semester based on some of the requirements that I have to do. So I'm going to update this no seminar in this last day. I will send it out in an announcement, but I'm also going to update it here so that you'll be able to see it. There are a couple more seminars that for sure we probably will have to dismiss those seminars, which is fine. That gives you more class time or more time to be able to sub for those of you who are trying to get some subbing in. I will update that and I also will send in an announcement. I was just waiting to get those final testing, travel, things like that before I pushed that out. So that will be coming. I do want to spend a little bit of time this morning reviewing number one. I did it in our very first seminar that we had this semester, but we're here now. And if y'all are like me, it's kind of like I hear you when you're telling me something when I don't need it, but when I need it, I'm really listening and I'm really trying to pay attention. So I'm actually going to use Courtney as a sample for this because she's our very first one and she's done it correctly. Let's all give her a Courtney was our very first one to do Pop One this time. So I'm going to actually use her dates as a sample to show you guys how this rolled out for Pop One. So if you look down here where it says procedure for scheduling and submitting evaluations, Courtney is actually right in the middle of this process. So I'm going to use her dates to show you how this would roll out. In residency 2, we actually begin. That's one of the benefits of residency 2 is everything that I did in the beginning where I was evaluating you. I was giving you all of your feedback. I was telling you your areas of reinforcement and refinement. One of the benefits of residency 2 is we begin to shift those evaluation modes more to you. That doesn't mean that you have the final say in your evaluation. You can just be like, I'm giving myself an A for everything. What that means is we want to give you practice evaluating yourself, just like we do with our students. We want to give you the opportunity to rate your own performance and to evaluate your areas of refinement and reinforcement. You will have a class of your own very shortly, and we want this to become part of your professional practice. So I'm just going to review POP right now. Later on, we'll do walkthrough. But for POP, I'm using this as a sample. We have a little bit more time. We put a little bit more wiggle room into this schedule because you are required to do a little bit more. And we want to make sure that you have time to do that. So day 1, which if we're using Courtney's date, Courtney, she had her email. So She met the deadline where it says email dates by Monday, January 22nd. She met that deadline well in advance of that, took care of all of that, and we were able to schedule her POP, her conferences, all of that. Now, when it was time for her to do her POP 1, she emailed me I'm sorry, not emailed. She submitted her pre-conference guide and her lesson plan on January 31st, Wednesday, January 31st. That was her day 1. So that's when her clock started. So there's a place in Moodle, and I'm going to switch over and show you. This is your residency one. Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. Let me close it. This is your residency one right here. So when we're looking at the residency one, this is your residency Moodle. So notice the top. This is the one where all the cohorts there. And this is where you're actually going to upload your stuff. So in this case, this is where you are uploading your attendance, which just let's take a moment right now. Where's the attendance? There we go. So at this point, the first 2 attendances should be entered. And then at the end of this week, you'll be able to enter the next one and keep up with it as you go. Okay. Here is POP, and this is our conference. So here's our pre-conference guide. There is also a place, there's a lesson plan template is available here. But this is where you're going to upload the submission for your pre-conference guide and your lesson plan. So you're doing this before we meet. So she did it on January 31st on Wednesday, which meant that on February 1st, I had time between the time she submitted it and the time we met to go and look over her lesson plan and look over her pre-conference guide to get a good idea of what we were going to be talking about in the conference before we even got started. So she finished it up. Day 2, which was February 1st, that is when we met for the pre-conference. And at this point, the conference is brief. Honestly, Courtney, I think we were in and out of there, what, 30 minutes? Maybe you were able to do it in your lunch period, weren't you? Yeah, okay. So Courtney was actually able to do it on her lunch period because I had already had access to all the materials. I knew exactly what to ask her about some of the lesson plan things that I thought maybe could be improved or some questions I had about how things were going to be done. And she already had fully thought everything out in the conference guide. So she was able to quickly, boom, talk through it. Also, you're just more proficient in residency too. You know what you need to be doing in these lessons. So these pre-conferences don't take nearly as long now unless you need them to, unless there are some things that you want to rehearse. 30 minutes is typically what we're at. So February 1st, we had our pre-conference. That was on a Thursday. That's what worked out best for her schedule. That's what she scheduled it. Now we're going to go forward. Today, this morning, is when she actually taught her lesson, her POP lesson. So I went in there. It worked out that I was able to be present, but she also videoed it. Okay. So now she is videoing it. And by tomorrow, that video needs to be in the portal. I've already started my evaluation, but I like to go back and look at those videos, especially some areas where I'm like, oh, was that a 2 or was that a 3? Or was that a 3 or was that a 4? That helps me when I can go back and look at those videos. So within 24 hours, she's going to have that uploaded to the portal. Now, she has time. You have 5. There's a little bit more time with this. And the reason why is you've got time because you have a little bit more that you're supposed to do. 72 hours is the scheduled time. Some of you did less than that with your schedule. Some of you did a little bit more than that. So you've got time to watch your video and fully score yourself on the rubric. You are actually going to highlight each component and you're going to put a score in each row. Every single component, so every part of it, you need to have some evidence for. I'm not talking about how every single row, I'm not saying you've got to type evidence out for every row, but at the bottom of each component, like the domain 2 and domain 3, there's a place for you to put overall evidence. You need to justify at least a little bit in every row why you have rated yourself what you have. You're going to select 2 reinforcements and 2 refinements, and you're going to attempt a SMART goal for yourself. So you're fully filling this out. All of this needs to be typed into the rubric with your post-conference guide, which should be super easy to write at that point. And you're going to submit it to Moodle. So now we're looking at that same Moodle. We're going to scroll down. Now we are into post-conference. Notice that there is a place for you to put the post-conference submission. So you might be thinking, Ms. Benoit, I don't even know if that's my final evaluation. I'm not sure. That's okay. That's going to be my job. That's my part. So now what we do is, so Courtney's taking care of that. She's going to work on that. Courtney and I are scheduled to meet on Friday, the 9th. So that gives Courtney all the way from Monday until she needs to have it uploaded about Thursday for me so I can look at it. And that gives plenty of time for her to view her video, score herself, actually kind of come to the conference super prepared with any questions she may have. When we meet on February the 9th at 2 o'clock, that is when at that point, she is going to be able to speak to her findings of that lesson, her performance, where she thinks she is, and what her next steps are going to be moving forward for her growth. We talk it out in that conference. I'm going to give her things to think about and consider, but I'm not going to give her her final score in this conference. What I do is I will maybe show her bits, not all, but I will show her bits of my evaluation. I finalize everything, and within 24 hours, I finalize everything. And I submit it to her, and I, just like I did previously, I will submit it to her mentor teacher as well. At that point, she will receive the final evaluation. She reviews it. At that point, she has a very good understanding. And typically what we see is that your evaluation of yourself is very, very close to mine at this point because you have such a keen understanding of the elements of instruction. So now she's going to have everything she needs, and within 48 hours of receiving that. So this would, on a Friday, would be her thing, her conference. So by that Tuesday is when she's going to receive everything. By that next Thursday, the 15th, she should have everything uploaded. So Tuesday is actually Mardi Gras, so I might not be working through Mardi Gras. Please notice these are a couple of things I want you to note. These are business days. Weekends are not included. Holidays are not included in that schedule. I don't include them for you. I give you that time. Please give me that time too, okay? You may have less time between these suggested days, but you can't have more. So some of you may be like, oh, I can do that in 48 hours. I can do that, whatever. No problem. That's great. But you can't have more than that time because we want the turnaround to be quick enough for your walkthrough. The schedule may have to be adjusted to accommodate my availability. There are more than you than there are of me. And so sometimes I can't be quite as flexible as you can be. Also, the schedule may be amended for your special circumstances, like you might get ill. Maybe a family member gets ill and you're caring for them. There's a field trip. Some crazy weather day comes up. You know, all those kind of crazy things happen. And we will make changes as we need to. And then failure to comply with those deadlines as indicated will result in a grade penalty for you. Please note that that is in the residency handbook now. So if you show up to a conference and you haven't done the pre-work that you need to do, that your grade will be affected. And I may, depending on the situation, I may have you reschedule it. We may have to reschedule your walkthrough. So please, I know things happen. Families, you get sick, your families get sick, things happen, but try to keep up with the deadlines as much as you possibly can. Okay, I'm going to stop so that you can ask me any questions, because this is everything's the same. The ending portion of this evaluation is just, we're just bumping it up a bit and putting a little bit more of the accountability on you for your own performance. Comments, questions, thoughts, maybe some procedural things. Okay. I don't want you to be nervous. Listen to me carefully. I don't want you to be nervous about scoring yourself and being like, I don't know if I'm right on this. I don't know if I'm sure on this. You know more than you think you know. Okay. You are doing more effective instruction than you realize you're doing. So let me just put that out there for you. You get nervous, but you're doing a good job. Okay. So far, so good? All right. Okay, so now that's our procedure. We went over testing. We went over possible things. Oh, one other thing, field trips. Everybody hear me carefully on this. Feel free to shoot me an email to ask me. You are allowed to support a field trip anytime you are supporting students, even if it's not in your content area. For example, Zane is English. His teacher teaches English. Let's say that one of the teachers is going on a social studies field trip. Their class read a book or an article or something, and the social studies teacher has popped over to Miss Mount's class, and she said, hey, I'm short on chaperones for my field trip on April 2nd or whatever. Do you think y'all could participate? Can you be a chaperone for me that day? Yes, you can. If you and or your mentor are going on that field trip and you are helping students on that field trip, like you're being a support to the students, yes, you are allowed to do that. It does not count as one of your absences. Now, you have to ask yourself, do I want to do that? You may not want to. You're not obligated to do that then. You don't have to do that, but you're allowed to do that, okay? If your mentor says, hey, I'm going to this teacher conference. It's all about teacher technology. Would you like to come with me? That is an absence. No students will be there for you to be supporting them. You can still go. You're still allowed to go. But if it's one of your days in the field that you would have been in the field, that's an absence because you're not supporting students. The reason I say that is things get super willy-nilly in the spring. For example, Courtney, what was going on today that many of your students were gone?
FBLA.
FBLA, okay? They were supposed to be a couple of weeks ago, but they had to reschedule. And I was so proud of Courtney. Several of her students were involved in it. She didn't freak out. She just taught her lesson. They weren't there. She didn't try to reschedule her lesson. She just went with it. Thank you, Courtney. That kept things on schedule, okay? She just went with it. It happens. Those things happen. In the spring, band, choir, color guard, everybody who can go somewhere is going somewhere. And many times you may be asked to assist. So your flow chart is, number one, am I directly helping students in some way on this field trip? If yes, it won't count as an absence. Then you have to decide, do I want to do it? That's up to you. If kids aren't involved, it is an absence, but you can still do it. It's just an absence. Comments or questions about that? Groovy. Any other questions related to subbing, field trips, or anything of the like? Great. It's February and we might finally be understanding, y'all. That subbing stuff is kind of wonky. Okay. Now we're ready. We are going to continue with our mentee initiated mentoring today. We've got 2 more lessons built in, 1 more module for this. And today we are actually leveling it up just a little bit. So now we're talking about what is an effective partnership. Once you've established the qualities that you're seeking in a mentor and you've reviewed your own characteristics as a mentee, it's important to consider the actual attributes of what an effective partnership looks like. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and we're going to do it 1 more Monday, and then we'll be done. We'll be finished with this portion of it. So we're looking at these objectives. We're going to analyze and evaluate mentor-mentee relationships for effective attributes of communication, clarification, and camaraderie. We're going to develop criteria for your desired mentor-mentee relationship. And then eventually, we won't do this yet, but we will work on this when we come back from Mardi Gras. We're going to initiate and conduct a meeting with a potential mentor to propose a mentorship. So this is our discussion for today. I'd love for us to use the yes and strategy and talk about this concept of trust. Why is trust essential in a mentee-mentor relationship? Can we use the yes and strategy to come off and say, why is trust essential?
Well, so let's say if the mentor does not trust the mentee, and then there will be no opportunity for the mentee, the one who's learning, to actually apply their knowledge. And if the mentee does not trust the mentor, then nothing happens, basically, because they don't trust the knowledge they're getting. They don't trust the skills they're getting. They don't trust either or to be a valuable asset, essentially.
Really well articulated. Thank you, Zane. Yes, and.
I feel like if a mentee doesn't trust the mentor, then they can't honestly tell them what they feel like is wrong with how their team, like if I don't feel like I'm doing something good, but if I don't trust my mentor, then I can't tell them I feel like I'm struggling in this area.
Yeah. It's hard to be vulnerable when there's no trust. It's very hard. Yes, and?
I feel like the same goes opposite for if the mentor doesn't trust the mentee. They're don't trust in giving them information, or maybe don't give them the full scope of information that they
Yep.
think they need. If they
Yep.
don't trust it, they'll actually use it, maybe feeling like, well, I don't want to waste my time sitting down and meeting and explaining all of this or giving you all this extra help if I don't trust that you'll apply it or use it or listen.
Absolutely. Very well articulated. It's an investment. It's a true investment in someone else. And if that credibility has somehow been ruined, that they are, to use an adage here, throwing their pearls before swine, before something that's not going to appreciate it, then yeah, that trust is not there. Anybody want to add anything about the concept of trust in this relationship? Now we're going to actually look at and talk about specifically some of the whys some of those things are effective. So we're going to read and discuss. It's called Trust Matters by Megan Moran. It's from this work called Leadership for Effective Schools. It's fascinating. Then we're going to practically apply it in a breakout room strategy. We're going to actually do the first one together, and then we will divide up in groups. And we're going to use our remaining time today to actually break it up and look at some specific components of it. Finally, we're going to discuss those responses as a group. So the very first thing we're going to do, and I've already pulled it up here. It is right here. Let me enlarge it, and then I'm going to read this to you. You are welcome to access it if you would like. You will actually have to access some of this in a moment for the breakout room. But for now, I'll just read this to you. Trust Matters by Megan. I do not know how to say that middle name, and I have never heard it pronounced. Any ideas, you guys? Anybody with like some Eastern European background?
It's probably just Shannon. Like sometimes the T is silent.
So it's probably Celtic, huh?
Yeah.
See, I always make things hard. Good job. Okay, I'm glad I didn't try to say that. That would have been so embarrassing. That was not what I was thinking. Okay, we're just going to say Meg. We're just going to call her Meg for now, okay? So this is Trust Matters by Meg. So trust is not some soft, elusive quality that you either have or you don't have. Rather, trust is pragmatic, tangible, actionable asset that you can create. The ability to establish, grow, extend, and restore trust is not only vital to our personal and interpersonal well-being, it is the key leadership competency of the new global economy. Competence and character are vital to trust. Developing trust demands attention to integrity, intent, capabilities, and results. We must learn to interact with others in ways that increase trust and avoid interacting in ways that destroy trust. These ways that increase trust involve 13 behaviors. And so this is all research-based. So let me scroll down a little bit here. This is actually what the focus of your breakout discussion is going to be. Talk straight, demonstrate respect, create transparency, right wrongs, show loyalty, deliver results, get better, confront reality, clarify expectations, practice accountability, listen first, keep commitments, extend trust. When there is high trust within an organization, so a school, a classroom, or in this case, a mentorship, there are increased dividends in increased value, accelerated growth, enhanced innovation, improved collaboration, stronger partnering, and heightened loyalty. So you mentioned in your discussion that there were some things about the mentor and about the mentee that could perhaps compromise that trust. You actually were hitting on some of these 13 behaviors. We're going to dig into why these are so valuable because we're going to look at each one individually. So let's do the first one together. So for example, the first behavior is talk straight. And so what this means is being honest and forthright. When asked a question, answer as honestly as possible and get straight to the point. Demonstrate integrity and don't spin the truth or beat around the bush. Don't create false hope and don't create false fears. So this does not mean being unkind. Sometimes people say like, well, I just tell it like it is. Typically when people use that adage, they mean that they are saying something in a way that could be offensive. It's not, it doesn't mean that you don't say it with kindness, but it means that you are being honest and transparent. So here's a real world example. I think you can do more to prepare for our PLC meetings. When you come unprepared, when you came unprepared last time, it showed your colleagues you don't care about work we're doing together. So who do you think is speaking in this regard, the mentor or the mentee? Lorraine, can you come off mute because you were correct and explain why you think that?
I think it was the mentor giving guidance to a mentee that wasn't prepared.
I think so too. What's some evidence from it that you believe that would be the correct roles and why that would be important?
Because it looks like that the person speaking is giving guidance and pointing out something that could be improved.
Good. Now, what I'd like for you to do right now, independently, I'd like for you to generate in what we could put in this column if we were using this from the point of view of a mentee. So instead of real world, we'll put and it doesn't have to be related to this PLC example. It can be anything. Lean into your own experience to consider how speaking honestly, transparently would be important.
I feel like if you're talking about like planning with your mentor,
Can you elaborate? What would that actually look like? You can bullet point it or whatever.
oh yeah, I was gonna say this morning, me and my mentor were talking about she wanted to almost rework the whole next coming weeks that would put my pop doing something differently. And when she was explaining how to change what the springboard had said to do, to kind of save some time, I was confused and I was telling her, I was like, honestly, I don't really understand why you're making the decision to change up what we're doing. I said, are you trying to make my pop activity something different? Or why are you saying I fully told her, I was like, I don't understand the choices you're making, not in a rude way. I was just like, can you please re-explain to me why you're making the decision to want to save time here? If that is, you're acknowledging that's changing what we're doing here, whenever we talked it out, she was like, you're right. We didn't move anything. But I was like, I'm confused. Can you please just re-explain why you're making the decision to do that in lesson planning?
Perfect. That's a fair question, right? It's honest, it's transparent, it's talking straight. Is there anything in it that's rude or sort of like not respecting the roles of each person? I think it's great. Okay, let's do one more together. All right. So the next one is demonstrating respect. Okay, so this means to show genuine care and concern for others. I'll enlarge it in just a moment so y'all can see it. Don't pretend feelings you do not have. Show respect for all, not just people who agree with you. So this doesn't have to be a conversation stem. It could just be a couple of qualities. How does a mentor demonstrate respect? What are some things? Think back. What did mentors do for you right off the bat, especially in the beginning, to show respect for you in this new role? Courtney, go for it.
Like mine, I know personally mine gave me like my own little space, like a desk and something. So it's like for me it showed that like she's like okay with me being here.
That's actually pretty supportive, right? Give you like yours is really nice. You have even like a really nice chair. That's hard to come by at Barb. She probably scavenged for that for you. So she gave her own space, that the mentor was supportive of her being in the room. All right. So I want you to think about too, this is you're sharing a space with someone. Next year, you'll have your own classroom. You won't be sharing a space with someone, but how would a mentor show that they respect you or respect your role? So how is what's something you think that a mentor could do that's not, because you won't be sharing a physical space, most likely, unless you're doing some fancy team teaching thing. But how do you see that going on? What does that look like?
Can you repeat the question?
So next year, in this case, you got your mentor was actually sharing a physical space with you. So this was kind of an easy way for the mentor to show respect for the mentee. Next year, you won't be sharing a physical space with your mentor. Can you think of another way that a mentor could show respect to a mentee? Something practical like that?
Maybe if they want to meet during planning periods to give guidance and discuss goals
Good.
and stuff.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. I want you to kind of begin thinking very good. For the sake of room, I won't actually type that in here, but we'll move over. How does a mentee show respect to a mentor?
I feel like just showing that you're grateful for all of the support they give you. It's a good way to show respect.
Yes. It's it's free, doesn't cost anything. Just show, like you said, showing gratitude. Saying thank you goes a long way. Okay. Let's do one more together, and then I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. Okay. This one is, and I'll enlarge it for us. This one is create transparency by sharing all the information you have in an understandable way. Create transparency by sharing the information in an understandable way. Be open and authentic and share information because you believe it is important for all to have information to better understand and make decisions. Readily reveal your areas of weakness and provide information of your current plan of action. Do not have hidden agendas. They always backfire. So how does a mentor create transparency?
Something I feel like is like if like you have one student that your mentors had before and you're having issues, whether it's behavioral or academic with that student, the mentor can tell you what worked for them.
Good. The mentor can share strategies that were effective to support a student who is showing misbehavior. Yes, especially if it, like you said, if it's a student that they had before. Yes, that's very helpful and effective. All right, what about the mentee? How does the mentee create transparency in a partnership like that?
Don't lie when you're totally lost and need guidance. Ask for help and be specific with what you need help on. Don't just do the whole, hey, how you doing? Are you good? Yeah,
Yes.
I'm all right.
Yes, yes. Especially this is not just going to be like this is not just about like school processes and procedures and things like that. You're not going to be expected to know that stuff. Like all the computer and JCampus and records and all that. But even with your content, don't pretend that like with your mentor, like it's okay to say, I don't know this. Like, I remember we went over it briefly in like this college class I took, but we did not go into that much depth in it. I need some more support understanding this content. I'm going to tell you something. That is one of the key pieces of teaching secondary. what you are teaching is so highly specialized. Like it is so highly specialized. There are engineers who are working in the field who couldn't come in and teach some of our math classes or our science classes because they don't know it that well. So I want you to consider that, Maggie.
Just an example of that, just because it works with what we're talking about. Even last week, so my mentor is also a mentor for not a first year teacher, but a first year on this campus. She went
Yeah.
from teaching elementary to now teaching freshman English. And we're doing Romeo and Juliet right now. And she came in and told Miss Kopecki, she was like, did you know what was going on in this before the first time you taught it, or did you have to learn as you went? Because she was like, like with the discussion questions and being able to talk about it, like she didn't just read the full thing and have all this knowledge, or whatever. So I actually made like we're all using the same discussion questions, and we're a little like ahead of where she's at by a few days. And so I spent the fuel period taking all the discussion questions for all of Act 1. And like, because I'm taking notes as Miss Kopecki teaches, Miss Kopecki asked me if I could make like a study guide for her with all the notes that I write down as she's talking and
Wow.
doing the discussion. So I wrote all the answers and then all the little like things to point out, all the questions to ask the students that revolve around that discussion questions to guide their thinking. So like her having been an experienced teacher, but a first year in this, secondary content, like being so open to coming and say, I have no idea what's going on or like what I'm supposed to know to be able to guide discussion. So just an example. It's not embarrassing to do it whenever you need to.
Yes, it's perfect. Perfect. Kudos to her for being transparent, and kudos to you for developing all that for her, like going on, because it's definitely, I'm sure, helping you teach by, formulating it for her. Everyone wins. And ultimately, the students win. The students are the ones who are going to benefit from the better material and the better content knowledge. So here's a tip. If you get your job before the end, like if you get your job over the summer, definitely spend a little bit of time this summer reviewing the content, reading through the textbook, reading any of your anchor texts. I'm not saying you have to know every single thing about all of it, but prepare. It saves you on the back end. Yeah. Okay. We're going into breakout rooms now. I'm going to put you in 2 rooms, and this is what you are going to do. Someone needs to access, this is a document, and I'm going to actually I'm going to drop it in the chat right now. So I'm going to drop the chat in the document. Give me just a minute. Anyone with the link can share. Anyone with the link is going to edit it. Y'all saw me switch it to editor, right? I remembered, because I forget that kind of stuff. So let me drop in the chat. Someone's going to access this, and y'all are going to actually type straight into this document. Oh, wait, no, everyone. Okay, let's see. All right, y'all should be able to access this. It's Google. Okay, then what's going to happen is I am actually going to put you in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there are 6 of you. So I'm going to put you in 3 groups, 2 per group. So you'll be in a partnership, and we're going to split it up. So group 1, and I'll put this in the chat too, you will take numbers 4 through 6. Group 2 will take 7 through 10, and group 3 will take 11 through 13. And I'll put that in the chat as well. So group 1 is numbers 4 through 6, 2 is 7 through 10, and 3 is 11 through 13. So let me go ahead. I'm going to open up breakout rooms, and it's just going to assign automatically, create. So group 1 right now, Lorraine and Maggie. So y'all have numbers 4 through 6. Good. room 2, I haven't opened them yet, is going to be, it says Courtney and Sam. Y'all have 7 through 10. And room 3 is Zane and Brooklyn, 11 through 13. I'm opening the rooms now. And if you don't finish, it's okay.
And they returned at the end of the day. And so I had this stack of papers. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna remember to hand these out before they leave. We only have 5 minutes. So at the end of the day, I was passing them out and the students were leaving. And then another teacher came across the hall. She goes, they all have the students' names on them. I messed up too, but she was able to retrieve them all before the students left. And several of mine had gone down. And I didn't, the papers went to the wrong students. So I went over to the office and I said, you've got to please help me. I messed up. But everything worked out fine because it was a survey students were chosen randomly. So everything was fine. But yes, so to right or wrong,
What just happened? Now I can't go back. Now I can't go back to where I was typing. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna talk about will you annotate this lesson plan?
You have share rights too, just in case you want them. In
Is there
case,
anything you would add or take away? Now we just have to think of a way to ask for feedback in our point of view, mentee perspective.
I feel like you could just do something where it's like asking see if your mentor has the time or something to come observe you actually teach. And then you can ask and see if they think there was a better way to do it or a better way to proceed with everything.
whether whether or not the mentee does something the mentor does not particularly like. There we go. All right, and then how can a mentee extend trust over and over again? I guess we can say like continuing to be open and honest with the mentor, like, and still trying to go for them for help. Like, don't like kind of what Maggie said earlier, like don't
Like-
just like shut themselves off.
Yeah, and then like obviously if a mentee really trusts the mentor, they will try the things that the mentor is telling them to.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So mentee actually tries to implement advice given or instead of throwing it out. They aren't who used to it. Right. Excellent. All right. Yeah, it was just what was it, 7? Okay, well, this is the last one. Oh, Dr. Bailey, do we answer these little questions at the bottom, or is that for whole group?
What questions? Is it like,
Like
Getting-
what do you already feel good at? What are some
Yeah.
behaviors you'd like to improve?
that's gonna actually be your little discussion board thing. So
Excellent. All right. Let's see what everyone else is typing. Ooh, it's like fancy.
Oh yeah, we didn't really give like quotes. We just kind of brainstormed.
Ah,
It looks
we-
like they're like demonstrating like a quote that each one would say to the other.
oh yeah, it's like a first person
But
perspective.
ours were kind of like listening first, keeping commitments. Like those were things like you can't really talk through. Like it's kind
Yeah.
of like expected to be there, be present,
Yeah. 'Cause
action
we put
more
like
than like,
I will be there at that meeting, or like keeping commitments like I am here at this meeting now, present with you. So yeah.
that is really important though. Like,
Yeah.
so think about both sides of it. If
Mm,
if you find a mentor who says, "Oh gosh, yeah, I would love to work with you on the rise of totalitarianism or Romeo and Juliet or whatever it is," and you're like, "Oh great, I've got somebody who's going to do this," and you cancel your doctor's appointment because she says she can meet you on Thursday, and that's your doctor's appointment, but you're like, "Man, I really need this. I'm going to reschedule my doctor's appointment." So you reschedule it, and then you're there. You're ready to go. 10 minutes goes by, you
Mhm.
shoot a text and you're like, "Hey, or we're meeting in my room, right? Or was I supposed to go to your room?" And you get a text back saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm already home. I totally forgot. Can we meet in the morning?" After a while, you get the message, "Okay, that person said she would help me, but she really doesn't want to help me. I need to find someone else." Your trust is broken. Okay.
mhm.
Same thing. If you're the mentee and you're like, "Man, I really want help with that," and the same scenario happens and that person's ready. She's made you copies of her stuff and the same scenario happens and you're like, "I'm so sorry. I completely forgot." I wouldn't want to help you any. After a while,
Yeah.
because our time is valuable. So
Mm.
I think that that's really important. I think that the things that you said are important about keeping commitments. Like I went and read what y'all said. It's not quite as detailed. Maybe put an example of like, I think for most of them you had an example, but if there were any that you felt like is a little bit vague, just put even a bullet point example.
All right. All right, let's do that.
Awesome. Y'all are having some really good conversations. It was very interesting to hear some of the things y'all were leaning into, you were using from your own personal experience. So this is what I remember, we're not meeting next Monday, but this is where we are in this process. After you read and discussed Trust Matters, so that was what you just did. We read it, you did that exercise, and it's completed at this point. You can actually access that document. It's embedded in this PowerPoint. So feel free if you want to go back and look at what I can also link it here for you too. I'll do that as well. I'll link the document here so you can see what your peers put. What I want for you to do is assess your own attributes. Which ones do you think that you were good at? So isolate maybe like 2 or 3 that you feel like this is something either I'm naturally good at or residency has developed this trait in me. And maybe some that you can tell, I still need to work on this. This is something that I'm not quite there yet. I need to work on it. I want you to compose a brief response which discusses both. I hope that we established a pretty safe space here where you can be fully transparent about, what you're doing well on and what you need work on. You can bullet point it. You can do a little paragraph, however you want to do it. You're just going to add it right here to the forum. Please post it by Saturday, February 17th. And then on that Sunday, I'd like for you, or Monday morning, I want you to review your peers' posts and let's be prepared to speak to what we've seen as far as like the commonalities, the differences, etc. Does anybody have any questions? All right, I'm staying on for anybody who needs to talk about anything. Everyone else have a wonderful week. I will be sending out a couple of announcements to you this week. So please just make sure you're checking your email, checking announcements. Have a fantastic holiday break. Eat some king cake if you aren't allergic and sugar doesn't put you into a coma. But have a wonderful time. Whatever you're doing, be safe, have a good time, have a nice week, have a good break.